So this week, the last week to make trades here in fantasy basketball. So here it is, week 14 guards that I look to sell off high or just trade in general. The first guy's Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. So Kyrie Irving, he came back the other night after missing 3 games because of personal family matter. And Irving, he's been a great player this season, no doubt about it. But I still can't trust this guy, because when things come up in crunch time, he just doesn't play, or whatever the reason is, it's always something with him. So Irving, if I have him on my roster and I'm a team trying to make the playoffs, or if I'm even up there in the standings and I really don't have to count on him, I would look to dump him off. On the season, Irving, he's been great though. 28.1 points a game, 4.9 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.3 steals a game, 2.8 threes a game, 89% from the foul line, and 52% from the field for Kyrie Irving. And the last couple weeks here, the numbers, they've been pretty much the same. I know he only missed the 3 games, is Irving, and surprisingly, he came back right away after those 3 games was Kyrie. So that's a good sign. But anyway, I would just look to sell him off as Irving. Right now, Kevin Durant isn't playing for this net team, and they can implement other guys as well. Blake Griffin, he's starting to learn the playbook. LaMarcus Aldridge, they signed him a couple days ago. And Irving right now, I just don't think he's a guy you could count on when the money's on the line and you need to win a fantasy game or even in the playoffs, whatever team he's been on throughout his career. He just ends up injured or something else happening. And right now, while Irving's playing at a high and a great level, I will look to sell him off right now before it's too late, with the trade deadline done this week in fantasy leagues. The second guard's Norman Powell, the newly acquired player for the Portland Trailblazers. So Powell, he's had a great season this year, especially when he was in Toronto, and he's a free agent after the season, and he's going to get a big contract either from Portland or someone else. So on the season, he's ranked 67th in fantasy basketball, 19.5 points a game, 3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.1 steals a game, 2.8 threes a game, 84% from the foul line, and 49% from the field for Norman Powell. And so far, Powell, he's played 2 ball games here with his new ball club in the Portland Trailblazers. March 26th at the Orlando Magic, 22 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, a block, and 5 3-pointers. And a few nights ago at the Toronto Raptors, 13 points versus former team, 3 rebounds, a steal, and a 3. So Powell, he's on a good team right now over there in Portland. And obviously Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, they're the main guys over there on that roster who are going to have the ball a lot in their hands, and they're going to be the main fantasy players. And right now, with Powell, I know he's been playing good in his first 2 games, but I don't think the numbers are going to be as good as they were this season in Toronto. I don't think he's going to be as consistent. Jusuf Nurkic, he just returned as well, and he's another good option on this Portland team. And Powell right now, I think I could get a decent guy for him who might have more upside, or even a player you package him with for a big-time player as Powell, because I just don't see him continuing averaging 19 points a game. Maybe it'll drop to 14 to 16 still, which is still pretty solid. But I think right now, while his value's high, I would look to sell him off. The next player is Evan Fournier of the Boston Celtics. Fournier, another player that got traded at the NBA trade deadline from the Orlando Magic to the Celtics. And on the season, 18.9 points a game, 2.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.1 steals a game, 2.73, 79% from the foul line, and 44% from the field. So Evan Fournier, I said he was a player I would look to sell high last week, because he's going to get traded most likely. And that did happen here, from the Magic trade in Boston Celtics. And now in his Celtic debut, maybe it was first game jitters with his new team, or whatever the case may be, but he played 33 minutes, 0 for 10 from the field, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So that's a horrible first game and first impression with his new team here for Fournier. But obviously, he's not going to be this bad. But right now, I would look to sell him off and try to get something better, because even if he gets things going, he's the 3rd or 4th option as well on this offense when you got 2 great guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in the offense here for the Celtic team. And Kemba Walker still working his way back into shape this season, and Marcus Smart. So this Boston team, they got a lot of options. and Evan Fournier. He was a great piece to add to their roster, but I just don't see the numbers happening the rest of the year where they were in Orlando, where it was a free-for-all over there. And now with Boston, I think Fournier, the numbers are going to drop. And if you could get anything of decency for him right now, this is the time to do it with the deadlines coming up in fantasy. The next guard's John Wall of the Houston Rockets. And John Wall, he's been on this list a couple times this season. I'm going to say it again for the last time I do this video topic for the fantasy basketball season with the deadline, like I've been mentioning, is this week. John Wall, I think they're going to shut him down over there in Houston. This Houston team, it's about all the young kids and seeing what they got for the future, because obviously they traded James Harden. Then Victor Oladipo they traded as well. And that's all just young, and PJ Tucker, and it's all young guys now. And I could see them buying Wall out where he goes to a contender and he don't play major minutes, or just load management and bench him for the rest of the season and bring him back next year. And on the season, John Wall, 20.2 points a game, 3.4 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 1 steal a game, 1.9 threes a game, 40% from the field, and 74% from the foul line. So with those numbers, he's a pretty sellable guy, in my opinion, is John Wall. And the last couple games for him, March 26th at the Minnesota Timberwolves, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 15 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. March 27th again in Minnesota, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 threes. And then March 29th versus Memphis, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks and a 3. So the numbers have been pretty decent. His assist numbers have gone up a lot over the last couple weeks here as well. But I just don't think he's going to finish off the season healthy. And even if he does, this Rocket team, they're going to see what they got with other young players and keep him on the bench, or just buy him out where he'll go to a contender, like I mentioned, and not play the major minutes. And the fifth and final guard I would look to sell off or trade this week here is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So Alexander, he was a top 30 pick in most fantasy leagues this season, but now he's a guy injured, and right now there's no timetable for his return. And with 25-30 games left here in the NBA regular season, I don't think they're going to rush Alexander back. Is this OKC Thunder team? Their team obviously in the rebuild mode. They're not going to make the playoffs. We've seen what their intentions are by trading George Hill at the NBA trade deadline. Now benching Al Horford the rest of the season, or maybe buying him out. We'll see what happens with that. And Alexander now with a plantar fasciitis, that's a bad injury, and right now there's no reason to push him. So this could be the end of him for this season. And what a good season he did have. Ranked 43rd in fantasy basketball, 23.7 points a game, 4.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 threes a game, 80% from the foul line, and 50% from the field. So if there's a manager out there that would give you even something of decency for Alexander, this is the trade to do, because I don't think he's coming back this season. And even if he does, it's going to be in a limited role, because this Thunder team, like I said, they're rebuilding, and they don't want their young superstar to get hurt. So right now, if you could trade him, go out there and trade him. So that's a few guards I would look to sell high, or just trade in general this week in week 14 of the fantasy basketball season as the deadlines approach in your leagues.